The number one reason you can't move abroad or won't move abroad has nothing to do with money and everything to do with planning and preparation. And we're going to discuss in this video the things that you need to be planning for so that you can move abroad successfully and have a soft landing. I see so many videos on social media where an American decides to visit a country and falls in love with it and decides they're going to stay there indefinitely. And guess what? They're only met with immigration officers knocking on their hotel door or their Airbnb door telling them they have to leave immediately and that they're essentially being deported. Americans are very fortunate that they can travel throughout the US without many hurdles, as well as travel to different countries without having to go through visa requirements. However, once you decide to remain in a country longer than 90 days, most countries impose that you are required to have a visa to stay there long term or a residency permit, which means you have to have some interaction with the consulate or the embassy and ask for permission to remain there. And it's not automatic. You have to have income requirements, you have to show proof of stability, you have to have proof of health insurance, as well as additional requirements. But there is an ideology in America that gives Americans so much gravitas to go and to explore. Unbeknownst to them, there's some requirements to enter and remain in a country long term. So at a baseline, if you want to move abroad, you need to know what are the requirements for entry long term in that country before you take the leap and just pack up everything, sell your house, and go there. Because what a frustrating experience to sell your house, move to a country, unpack, get an apartment, only to have an immigration officer knocking at your door telling you you need to leave after you've developed a life there. Another thing you want to be thinking about is healthcare. We know the healthcare system in the US is very precarious, it's complicated, it's profit driven. However, once you go abroad, there's several things you need to be thinking about. Number one, even initially when you apply for the visa or the residency permit, you will be required to show proof of international health insurance that covers you in that country. The insurance coverage also must be comprehensive enough according to the consulate or the embassy's website. It's not a random thing, oh, I just have international health insurance. You have to make sure you check with the consulate to see what the max amount of coverage is, as well as additional coverage like medical evacuation, emergencies, prenatal care, etc., etc. So you want to make sure that you have comprehensive enough insurance before you move abroad. At a baseline, the embassy will check you to make sure. And if you do not meet the requirements initially in the application process for the visa, they will deny your visa just based on not having international health insurance that's comprehensive enough. Even if you could purchase it later on, you're not complying as of this application. So with the purchase of your international health insurance, if you have a pre-existing condition, there's a likelihood that the international coverage will not cover you for that pre-existing condition. Meaning, if you have heart disease, you have diabetes, if you have an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, your international health insurance will cover you for emergencies unrelated to that pre-existing condition. So you need to prepare, what are your contingencies in the event you have a relapse? Are you going to pay out of pocket for care? How much is that care in that country if you're forced to pay for out-of-pocket care? I mean, God forbid you have a heart attack because you have pre-existing health condition. What is it for treatment of a heart attack in that country? Are you going to have extra medication? Or is the plan to return to the US once you've been stabilized in that country and seek care in the US? So those are the things you need to be thinking about so that you're prepared for plan A, plan B, and plan C. Another thing in terms of the healthcare that you want to be thinking about is what are the requirements to enroll in the national or the socialized medicine of that country? Is there a set period of time which makes you eligible to enroll? And what is the gap in your coverage until you can enroll in the national or the socialized medicine? Most countries, once you are a resident, or you have a visa, you can enroll in their nationalized medicine, but there may be a period of time where you cannot enroll. So you want to make sure that you're protected or you have some sort of contingency in plan until you can enroll. And fortunately, most of the countries Americans are looking at do have some sort of nationalized medicine that's relatively affordable, but you just want to have an idea, okay, I have to remain in this country for 6 months before I can partake in the nationalized medicine. These are my plan A's. I'm going to have a specialist on call. I'm going to reach out to several specialists. I'm going to have additional medication, or I'm going to be prepared to pay out of pocket, but I'm going to take care of myself in the meantime to avoid any incidences. The next thing you want to be thinking about is your tax issues. I know no one wants to be thinking about taxes when they're moving abroad. It's not the funnest of topics, but here's the silver lining. The US does allow you to have certain exemptions and credits if you're paying taxes overseas in the new country. So there is some tax relief if I'm paying taxes in the country. There's also additional reporting requirements if you're living abroad, and you want to be abreast and current as to what are those reporting requirements regarding taxes, because they're additional to what you would have to report in the US. So you want to stay as compliant with this as possible, because guess what? The US is so draconian regarding penalizing you for failure to report or failure to file. Even if you don't owe, the US imposes significant penalties for failure to file. If you owe, it's just additional and compounded. Just because you're not living in the US, you're still required to file taxes and report on your worldwide income, no matter where you are in the US. And the US is unique regarding this. It's only US and Eritrea that requires their citizens to report on their worldwide income, even if they're not residents of the US. Also, you want to be abreast of your re-entry requirements. If you plan on returning to the US, even in the long run, do you plan on visiting family members, visiting grandchildren, and staying for several weeks, several months? What happens, especially if you're a senior and you rely on Medicare in the US? Medicare has several parts. You have Medicare Part A, and then you have Medicare Part B, and you have C and D. If you cancel your B, I'm just going to go over this really quickly. If you cancel your B and you re-enroll, you will be facing a penalty, and there is a lapsing period in which you have to wait in order for your Medicare Part B to kick in. So you want to be aware of that and not just dramatically end your Medicare because you're no longer receiving the benefits of it. Medicare is also connected to your Social Security. So you really want to avoid doing anything drastic because that can impact your Social Security. The information discussed in this video is just the tip of the iceberg of the things that we ironed out in the Legally Abroad course. In the course, I have laid out all of my knowledge, my expertise regarding cross-border laws, estate planning on an international basis, tax and compliance issues, has all been laid out so you can have clarity regarding your move abroad journey. This is not something you want to do in a moment or as a reaction because of your frustration of living in the US or because of your frustration with the administration that is currently in office. This is something that you want to plan as methodically as possible so that you can have a soft landing on the other side. And that is what I'm offering you as an attorney. If you have followed my journey, you know that it took several years for me even to move abroad. Even scouting the countries for a period of time took a few years before I actually took the leap and bought the house in Italy and applied for a visa. There were so many iterations of me thinking things over or this not quite being the right fit. And not only do you have my legal expertise, but you also have my personal information, things that I would avoid that have nothing to do with systems and infrastructure, legalities, but has to do with my personal perspective, which is so valuable. So I have put all of that in one course so that you can benefit from and have a plan in place of what are the things that you need to be thinking about. Okay, once this is covered, what's the next thing that you need to be thinking about? So you're covered on all fronts. If you have any questions regarding the course, the link for the signing up will be in the description box, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.